Hi guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the setup that I use for my thralls in Conan Exiles and sort of my recommendations for what are probably the best armour and setup for your thralls. This is a war party build, so essentially I am using two, but this would still work the same even with one. It's just my little sort of tips and recommendations, just showing off what I use in game and what I recommend. That if you want a pretty good strong thrall, especially since the health nerf, that's a good one, and have a look at this and see what you think. Okay, let's get into it. Alright, so we're using, some of you will probably recognise this name, very much so. New players wouldn't know who she is, but anybody that is a veteran will know Delincia Snow Hunter. She is a tier 4 named fighter, and you can get her up at the Mounds of the Dead in the top left of the map, or at the moment, as we are in chapter 3 of Age of Sorcery, you can get her with obelisk coins. I think it costs 50 from the Khitan merchants, and when you take her off your, we change this now, Wheel of Friendship instead of Wheel of Pain, because we like to be polite about it. Yeah, she'll look like this, and if we take a look at her stat sheet, you'll see there she comes off the Wheel of Friendship with 15 in strength and 30 in vitality, which gives her a 6% strength bonus and a 1300 HP health bonus, which is pretty decent. So if you got one of these early games, you'd be laughing. She also comes with, as you'll see there, a one-handed star metal sword. Now, just for leveling her up at first, if you're a new player and you're just running up and down the river kind of thing, she would manage with this. But typically I find with thralls, the one-handed weapons, especially one-handed short sword or an axe or anything like that, I don't know, they're a little bit sort of derpy, I suppose is the word I've heard people use, meaning that they're not necessarily as efficient with them as they could be. Give her a mace, for example, and yeah, she's an absolute beast with a mace, a one-handed mace, really good. She is also good, obviously. You can also get the Cimmerian Berserker, which I've got one over here. If we just ignore this armour a minute, we'll be talking about that later. But if we take a look at the Cimmerian Berserker, again you can see they come out with exactly the same, 15 in strength, 30 in vitality. Ignore the strength bonus, that's because of the armour she's wearing. But if we take a look at the health bonus there at the bottom, it's only 1207. So she comes out with that at level 0. Whereas if we go back to Delincia, a Delincia comes out at 1300. Now that's not a lot, but when you think that's like less than 100 thereabouts extra, but for that bit extra health she could potentially level up with some decent health, because don't forget they did nerf thralls a little while back, so even fully leveled they don't get half as much health as they used to do, unfortunately now. But this, especially since this update, which was a little while ago, I find with the way I've geared my thralls up, which is why I'm recommending them to you guys, I find that they have a lot more survivability, and surprisingly they still do a decent amount of damage, but using this setup they can do even more, which is just absolutely crazy. So yeah, typically a lot of veteran players or people that are getting good at the game, they'll get their Delincia, and what you'll do is aim to put her in this armour that you can see on this stand here. I'll stand back here a second so it doesn't show up. That's the Redeem Legion, which is like the better version of the Silent Legion. I see a lot of people on servers that I play on running about with thralls with this on. This is a great armour, by the way, for you as a player, because as a bonus you get carry capacity, stamina and strength bonuses, which is really good. And yeah, as I say, I see people put this on a thrall. So we've got a Delincia here, again level 0, still the same stats as you can see there, but if we look at her strength weapon bonus at the bottom, with this Legion armour on she gets 12%, which yeah, you could argue that's pretty much okay, that's pretty decent, 12% when she's not even leveled up. Well, let's have a look at the actual armour set itself though. So from her helmet she will get 3 points of strength weapon. Chest piece she gets the same again. Hands to get some health, that's pretty helpful. Legs to get stamina, we'll come back to that in a minute. And feet, carry capacity, again we'll come back to that in a minute. Now there's a reason why I said I'll come back to that. So she's getting 12 with that on. And if we remember, when she comes off the wheel, she comes out with 6. So essentially by adding that Redeemed Legion or Silent Legion to her, at level 0 we've already boosted her by another 6 strength weapon points, which is pretty decent. She will still do a decent amount of damage. But I've also seen people use this one, which is the Champion's Armour. Let's take a look at this. Again, it's a heavy armour set. Stamina, strength weapon, stamina, strength weapon, stamina. I'm going to be brutally honest, guys. Absolute waste of time on a Thrall. Oh! If you want your Thrall to survive and to do a decent amount of damage, forget putting champions on them. Excuse me. Now, yeah, don't forget. Fair enough, I'm saying absolute waste of time. That's my personal opinion. There might be other people that will argue with me, but we'll get to the reason of why that's a waste of time in a second. If you like that appearance, fair enough, go ahead and craft a set of it. But then what you can do is use it as an illusion on the pieces that I'm going to show you in a minute on your Thaumaturgy bench. So when we've made up the set that we're going to do shortly, you make that set up and then use the Champion's Armour as your illusionary pieces. Will cost you quite a bit, it's quite expensive to make. But use them as an illusion, and yeah, if you want, same with the Silent Legion, if you want your Thrall running around in Legions or in Champions, but you want them having a, what I say is pretty OP setup, then by all means. So okay, we've got our Delincia. She's got an extra 6%, but can we get her better than that? Well, the answer to that is yes, we can. Now, these two here, so this one on the right and this one here, both Delincias again. These are both at level 5, and on my server, which is the one I'm doing these videos on, that I also play on, these two are wearing what I call my new setup. As you can see, they're at level 5. She's got 23 for strength, and if we check this one, exactly the same, which is pretty handy. Sometimes they can have differences depending on how they gain on their levels, but these are the two that I would run together. And the way I would typically run them is with, instead of both with the same weapon, I'll run one with a two-hander, and that for it at the moment is the Tellus Sorrow from the Black Keep. But any two-handed sword will do, even a two-handed Star Metal sword, or any two-handed sword earlier in the game would work fine. And then also run the other with, as you can see there, a one-handed mace, so that can either be a legendary mace that you've found or one that you've crafted, or the tenderizer that you can get from the Yogg, tier 3 Yogg shrine. They're pretty easy to make. You do need star metal to make them on there, so you will have to be endgame and able to get up into the snow, or have a friend on the server that can get you some star metal. You could run 2 with both maces or 2 with two-handers, but when it comes to crowd control situations, so if they both get surrounded by a big group, when this one gets her full combo going and swings that sword around, the AoE is just ridiculous. And especially with the damage they can do, they just tear through anything. The one with the mace is just going crazy at them and smashing through their armor, because a mace will smash through armor. You could give them both maces if you're doing, say, undead, so skeletons or undead creatures, things like that, because they will tear through armor good. But certainly crowd control wise, one with a mace, one with a two-hander. Now, that would still work in a solo build if you only have excuse me, one following you. You could give them a two-hander, which is probably the better, slightly better choice is to go with a two-hander. You could give them a mace if you like, but typically if you run them solo, I would say give them a two-hander, because they have a big full combo that they do that does a lot of damage. Unless you're running a two-hander, if you like the two-handed weapons, or even if you're running sword and shield or an axe and shield so you can do a bit of bleed, then yeah, try them both out. Mace is okay, that, but if you're running the war party build as I am, I would say one of each. Okay, so that's why we use the weapons. Oh, and they both have the master weapon fitting on them, by the way, which boosts the damage and the armor penetration of the weapons. So the appearance of what they're wearing looks the same on both of them, because this is an appearance that I've done on the thaumaturgy bench. And basically what I've done is the pieces that we're using are actually from 2 or 3 different sets. So if you put them straight onto them as they are, you'll kind of end up with something looking like that. Now, to some people that would look cool and kind of funny. Some people would think it'd look weird. Is you've got the Hyperborean Slave boots, the Champion's leggings, Godbreaker grips, Voidforged Dragon chest piece, which is a heavy again, and the Voidforged Dragon helmet, again heavy. So what I do is I take all of these, pop them in the thaumaturgy bench, and change them to this appearance, which for the head is just simply gold or silver earrings, whatever you want to use, gold or silver bracelets, and then we're using Zamorian Thief for the boots, now if I pronounce this correctly, Guernica waistguard for the pants, and the Acaronian Illusionist, I believe it is, for the top. There's no dye on the top or anything as yet, or on the pants. I literally just left it the way it is. But that's just a little outfit style that I like, and I think it looks pretty cool, especially on 2 of them together. So yeah, we just briefly mentioned there what the pieces are that I'm using, and obviously it's a mishmash of sets, but this is why. So if you bear in mind, we were up to 12 with her on the Redeemed Legion, and she's getting health and a couple of bits of strength weapon, some stamina and carry capacity. However, if we change to these pieces, oops, that's the wrong one. If we look at her helmet, so Voidforged Dragon helmet, so that's the heavy helmet. It has high armor value, which is good, and that will give her a plus 20 in health, which helps out. Now you could also, for argument's sake, if you think your Thrall has good enough health when they're leveled up, you could try the Silent Legion or Redeemed Legion helmet, which gives strength weapon bonus instead of the health, if you think the health's good enough, which will obviously give them another boost to their strength weapon again. But just with mine personally, they do enough damage as it is. They don't take a lot of damage, so it just kind of keeps the health ticked up a bit. Voidforged Dragon ribs, which obviously essentially is the chest piece, that is giving her a plus 5 to her strength weapon. So in case we've forgotten, that's giving her a plus 5. If we go back to the Redeemed Legion, well, it's actually Silent Legion, so, but yeah, same thing. That's only giving her plus 3. So we're already up 2 extra points just on the chest piece. Then we go down again, using another set. These are the Godbreaker grips. Again, heavy piece of armor, strength weapon damage. They only give a plus 3, but if you're early game, if you're just starting out, there is another setup you can use for these last 3 pieces, which actually count with the feet, which we'll look at in a minute. So that's the Godbreaker grips, the Champion's leggings. Again, it's all heavy armor, another plus 3, and then the Hyperborean Slaver boots plus 3 again, which at level 5, because of her base 6 that she gets and the few levels she's already getting, she's already up to 23 with the way these level ups are rolling on this one. She's at 23. This could go even higher still. You can get them with pretty decent high stats. So that is how it works at the moment. If you're just starting out, if you've been to the sinkhole and you've learnt the Voidforged Dragon head and chest, great, pop those on. Then for the hands and the legs, just use Hyperborean Slave like you have with the feet here. And because this is a Thrall, we're using the Master Weapon Plating. Master Weapon Plating, I think it's called. Not Weapon Plating, Armor Plating. Tell you, slacking. Yeah, Master Armor Plating on all 5 pieces. Now on a player, that would probably weigh you down quite a bit. So if you were using this, you'd probably want to use maybe on the leggings, certainly on the champions leggings, armor reduction kits. But for a thrall, that doesn't matter. Now I'm going to stop there for a second because I bet you're sitting there now thinking, wait a minute, but what about a stamina? What about carry capacity? I'll tell you now, carry capacity on a thrall, anything that gives them carry capacity, waste of time. Thralls do not come with any bigger inventory space than whatever they come with. If they come with those 5 slots, which gives you 4 free slots obviously because 1 has the weapon in, that's what they come with. If they're a bearer with 20 slots, that's what they come with. If you put a pair of boots on a thrall and hope they're going to get more carry slots or more capacity to carry more loot, forget it, because they won't. Same with stamina. This is why we don't go with Legion, either Silent Legion or Redeemed Legion. Thralls are not affected by stamina. As a player is, thralls are not affected by stamina like we are. The only stats that actually benefit a thrall, as we can see there, stats that work are your vitality boost, so anything with health on it, your agility weapon bonus if it's a thrall using an agility weapon, or strength weapon bonuses, which is why we don't have any armor on here that boosts agility, because obviously we're not an agility build, she's a strength build. And we're only using strength and health because those out of the stats are the only ones that will benefit her. And it works exactly the same, whoever they are, whether it's Leon, Delincia, Varpnir, Janos, any of them, whoever the tier 4s are, even Freya, any of the named people you can get, whoever the fighters are, all the different ones. No thrall in the game is affected by stamina cost or carrying capacity as we are as players. So if you want to get the most damage out of your fighter, this will even work on low tier thralls. You won't get as big a numbers necessarily or as higher damage, but on your end game tier 4 named people, that's the way to go with it. So as I say, just to remind you, it'll look like that when you make it all, but if you illusion it, if you like Redeemed Legion or Silent Legion, make a full set of that. Like I say, it is a bit costly, but use it on Thaumaturgy, stick it back on your thrall. People think they're running around in Redeemed Legion or Silent Legion or Champions or whatever, but actually if they're running with this setup, trust me, they're going to do a lot more damage. But that's not it. They can already do decent damage as it is. This young lady, by the way, obviously, as we said before, is a Sumerian Berserker. This setup will work exactly the same on them. Even the male, it's not just all the women, it works on males as well. But that's not it. Now, I'm sure most of us know, when new players won't realise, while you're levelling your thrall, or even once you've finished levelling them, what you need to do while you are levelling them is give them food. Couple of reasons. One will boost their damage, but the other main reason is every time if they take any damage, they will eat that food, and that will help them to, as you can see on the left there now, it's now saying with her strength weapon bonus she's getting a plus 14, which essentially means she's got like a 104% chance to gain strength. So if I want her strength to gain more points in it, with having that gruel in there now, if she levels up, it means she's got an extreme high chance of gaining those points in the strength. Exactly the same for this one. Now if we want to boost the vitality, then you just use grilled steak, pop that in there, and what it'll do is you'll see the same number again, but the plus 14 will appear next to the vitality. So that's food to feed your thralls to help them level but boost their strength or whatever they're using. They've got healing, but we can go even further than that. Oh yeah. If you make some salted pork, this is for strength weapon builds obviously, agility weapon builds are slightly different, but if we make some salted pork, pop a piece of that in their inventory like that. Now you don't want to leave this in there, because if they eat it, it won't necessarily work. So what you have to do is force them to eat it. So you go back into their inventory. If you click, before we do it, let's look at her bonus there. 23. Back into her inventory. Click that. Check her stats again. As you can see there, she's now jumped up to 38, which is a 15% increase. So for that short duration, as you can see her health, above her health buff there, she's got the little pork looking, meat looking symbol, means she's got a strength bonus, so she now has a 38% damage bonus. This one had exactly the same again, just to show you. Get her to eat it. Exactly the same again. Now if your stats on your thralls that you're running are slightly different, one may get slightly more than the other. What I would do in that case is, if you have one of your two that has slightly higher health than the other, I would be using them as the one with the mace and enable the irritate perk, and then the one with the slightly lower health I would give them the two-hander and disable their irritate perk, so that the one with the mace is keeping the aggro with the enemy, which frees up your one with the two-hander to just go crazy and deal the damage. But then that's not it. We can go even further than that. Yeah. Another thing you can do is you can give them a potion buff. Now the Elixir of Might is a little bit more expensive to make, but the Grey Lotus potion, really easy to make. All you need is an improved alchemist bench, some water-filled glass flasks, some alchemical base. If you want to make the elixir, then it's Grey Lotus powder and Frost Lotus powder. If you want to make the cheaper option, then it's alchemical base again, water-filled glass flask and Grey Lotus, which if you want to grow them in your own house, you can grow them. As you can see there, Grey Lotus, Frost Lotus, there's a couple of locations where you can get those. I'll show you those in a second. But if you're going out to farm them, for your Grey Lotus, one of the best places is, let me get the right one, yeah, here, the Sinkhole Wayland, the Void Forge Dragon. If you search chests in there, you'll get seeds and possibly sometimes Grey Lotus Blossom. Another place is round about up here at a place called Clayo Stronghold, which is a dungeon. Plenty of chests in there, they will also give it you as well. Then all you need to do, if you want to get more, create more seeds, is once you've got some Grey Lotus flowers, pop them in a drying rack. That will turn them into seeds. Pop them in your planter, ideally the improved planter, with some potent compost and your seeds, and it'll grow more of the blossom for you. And if you want to know about those, I do actually have a video on the channel which I'll link at the end of this video. Go check that one out. We talk about growing plants and how easy it is to do and where to get things from to do it, and just how much more efficient, especially if your base isn't near any of these particular items. I show you on there how to get hold of them. And then the other place is the Frost Lotus, which surprisingly you find up in the snow. One good little spot is if you go up over this bridge here. This is the Bridge of the Betrayer, and just check underneath, and then all along this riverbank and all up this way you'll see little nodes, I suppose you'd call them, or little spawns of them, Frost Lotus. Take a sickle with you and you'll get a ton of it. Bring it back to your base and you can grow it. That way you don't have to keep making that horrendous long journey all the way up into the snow if your base isn't up there. So then all you do is you take the flowers, you pop them in your grinder, and that will turn them into either Frost Lotus powder or Grey Lotus powder. Bring them to your alchemy bench and they will appear. You'll find them in the menu on the right hand side, and then you would craft them. So then, as we can see there, Grey Lotus powder, Grey Lotus potion rather, plus 15 strength weapon, and exactly the same with the elixir again. it's a plus 15, so it's exactly the same amount bonus, 15 from each, just that the Grey Lotus is ever so slightly easier to make and cheaper. So she still has the buff at the moment, as you can see there. She's at 38, and this, like I said, this applies to any fighter in the game, no matter who they are. These will all affect them, and this potion will stack on top of that buff that you've already given them. So we gave them the pork, they're at 38%. If we then get her to drink that, go back on hers again, as you can see there now, she's now at 53% strength weapon bonus, and she's only at level 5. So if she was max level now and got a lot more points in her strength, that could even be up into 60s, 70s, even as high as up into the 80s. If you get a thrall that rolls with really good high strength numbers, and they get a really high bonus just with the armor you put on them, and then you buff them with this pork and this potion, you could, I reckon, potentially even get, if not a 100% strength weapon bonus, you could certainly get very, very close to it. And if you think about some of these 3 skull bosses in the game, if you know them, you think that they're already doing damage now, your thralls. Trust me guys, try them with this setup, try this potion, this pork with them, and you'll just absolutely melt everything. No matter where it is in the game, whether it's down on Noob River, which is easy anyway, or if you're up in the snow fighting mammoths, just watch their health just melt away. This will still be just as good with one, but if you're running it as War Party, you're going to be unstoppable. And the good thing is, because they're doing all your fighting for you, you won't need to. You can just stand back and, yeah, let them do it, and then reap the rewards. So yeah, if I missed anything in that, do let me know. I hope you found it helpful. I do try and obviously bring these tips and things out for people as I discover them. I've been playing for a little while now, and to be honest, until a while ago I never even realised this myself. I just used to chuck whatever armour on thralls and think it didn't matter. But when you delve into it a bit more, it's not that difficult to understand. But come back to me in the comments if you try this setup either with the solo or with the War Party build with this exact same gear. Come back to me and you tell me in the comments that you're not absolutely melting everything now, even if you were before. You tell me how much of a difference you're seeing. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Alright then guys, well that is just about it for this one. If I've missed anything, like I say, let me know in the comments down below. If you've got any questions or any other tips that you found that you actually work better, if you've got a better solution to this. I mean, you might have a different build that's just absolutely perfect. I just thought, you know what, this is what I use, I'm happy with it, I've worked on it for a little while. It certainly makes me feel better when I'm out fighting. Let me know, like I say, in the comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this type of video, just helps the YouTube algorithm push it out to more people. And why not subscribe while you're down there. And yeah, that is just about it. I'm just going to leave these two chatting away now. She's just trying to convince Delancia of why she needs to go with the setup that we're using and just how much more efficient she can be. So we'll leave these two to it, and I will say farewell guys, see you all in the next one. Bye for now.
You sent to